Hi, Chris. How are you?
Just peachy this fine morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so excited to get to talk to you and to share with the listeners all that you are and all that you do. And yeah,
So grateful to be here. I love the conversations that we have, whether we're jamming out about books or consciousness or uh, evolving ourselves in every way. We always just have such good conversations, and I'm so excited to see what comes from this.
yes. Thank you. Well, so to begin, I would love if you could just share about a little about who you are and like what got you to this point.
For sure. So, if anybody doesn't know me, my name is Dr. Chris, and the life that I'm living now is not the life that I had planned for me, like most of our lives do. I think a lot of your listeners can probably resonate with that as we think we have this trajectory of where we're going to go and how we're going to do it. And I thought that I was going to be out and be a practicing physician and have the practice and do the 9 to 5. And that is not the life I live nowadays at all. So right now, I'm a high performance coach. I'm a public speaker, and we're in the middle of COVID. So it's an interesting time to be those things. And I by no means had set out in this world to be a consultant or a public speaker or a coach. The first time somebody asked me what my coaching services were, I asked what sport they played. I genuinely did not know like what professional coaching was. And now I've created this multiple six-figure practice through coaching and online consulting and all of these different things. I've served over this year, I think we hit over 1,600 people that I've served using biohacking and biometrics to prove that the mind actually changes the body in so many different ways. I've spoken to Fortune 500s, spoken on Wall Street a handful of times, some tech companies out in California, and to people around the world, just showing them, not what to think, but how to think. We're so indoctrinated with the information, but when it comes to expressing ourselves and how we can actually use this vessel and the gifts that we're given, the process behind that and facilitating our own inner potential, something that we never really learn. Kids have that innately, but tend to get it pounded out of them in school with more and more information that's teaching them what to think, not how to think. So I started to shift the paradigm back in 2016, and that's when life really started for me. And started with a bang, more of a crash, black SUV. I'm somebody that likes to be mobile, and sitting down in a doctorate program 16 hours a day, not my thing. So I'd cycle everywhere. We're in Atlanta, so cycling was pretty common. I just got crushed by a neurophys lab practical, which had words in it that I had studied like 80 hours for, and there was words on that practical that was like, what language are y'all speaking? So I finished up with that, and I was going to go do what any 22-year-old's going to do. So I rode my bike to Walmart, went to the clearance department, got a bottle of Three Wishes, which is the dirtiest wine that you can possibly get. Went to the clearance department next door and got like 99-cent dark chocolate. And I was going to go home, cry, and watch Friends, because what else do you do when you're 22? So put the stuff in my backpack, and I'm riding home, and I was going down this hill, and the last thing I remember is looking up and seeing this guy make eye contact with me and go, OS. So he was turning a corner, blew a stop sign, and I was going down this hill and had the right of way, but I was going 35-ish down this hill. And I'm guessing, we think he was going probably 25, 32, and he hit me into a ditch, didn't stop. I woke up a couple hours later, obviously had a concussion, this, that, the other thing. Went home, brother, who is also a chiropractor and a physician, started doing this examination on me, and we're like, we got to go to the hospital. Internal lacerations. They thought I had a bucket handle fracture, which is just a bad thing in your pelvis. So long story short, that was like the first like drip in the bucket, is like body's broken. 2 weeks after that, I got the news that changed my life and the trajectory of my life for forever. My best friend, my dad, had committed suicide. And there's no way that we're ever taught to, one, process grief in and of itself and death, but to have your own father do that, who I had just seen 3 weeks ago, happy and barbecuing and all of these different things, have a process like that. And I was confused. I was mad. I was pissed off, frustrated, watching my body deteriorate because I couldn't move. And that was when I really started to have this internal like strife. And that was when I started to suppress a lot of these emotions that were just not taught to process in a lot of different ways. So my brother and I planned his funeral. We did one down south and one up in Michigan. And that was when I just was really at a low point. And I was trying to make sense of like, why did this happen? Like why? And as it was that confusion, and I kept asking the why and the why, and it was the anger was causing this like frustration, like never got to say goodbye, never had closure, never had this, never had that. And it's my best friend. I just saw the guy like 3 weeks ago, like quite literally, like, Dad, what the heck? Like, what the heck? And those are obviously extremely gentle words. So after we got that news, I went to the hospital that night, told them, hey, remove the catheter, remove all these bandages, remove this, remove that. I'm going for a walk. Signed about 1,000 release forms that are saying this is idiotic, don't do that. Your body's not going to heal properly. You're going to have surgery. And I was like, don't care. Like, not going to lay on my bed and just sit here and grieve in my own like crap. Like, I need to go for a walk in nature. So I started to walk, and the body does what it naturally does, and it heals. And my girlfriend at the time, amazing woman, her and I suddenly were pregnant, and we were going to have a child together. And 22, dad dead, body still very broken, and baby on the way. All of these things started to create this victimhood mentality. And I had this moment of clarity when I was like, all of these events are absolutely uncharged. They're just events, right? Just like an ant would die on the sidewalk, somebody had died, and my nervous system had given it meaning. So for some reason, there must be a lesson inside of this challenge. And once I had that moment of clarity and I started to better perceive the events in my life that were happening for me, not to me, that was when I started to get this fundamental shift in how can I actually transform my life? Like, if doing the life that I had done before had attracted in these circumstances, then what can I do to pivot and make a change and really start to facilitate a deeper potential inside of myself? So I knew I had 9 months before it was go time, before daddy mode really kicked in. And I had planned to be a dad at this age. Like, I'd always dreamed about being a father, but I was $200,000 in debt in school and like living in a single bedroom apartment, and like could afford beans and sardines for most of my meals, which the sardines are obviously a good thing, but the beans and the lectins and that, not so good. So first started off, and a mentor of mine said, hey, Chris, knowledge is power. And right now I would imagine you feel powerless. You feel hopeless. And I was like, you nailed it. That is absolutely it. He's like, so what do you think the cure, what do you think the solution to this equation is? Like, if we did like algebra on this thing, what do you need? I was like, I probably need like more education. He's like, okay, you're a doctor. Do you think that kind of education is the thing that's going to help you right now? And I said, absolutely not. He's like, what do you think you need? And I was like, I need to learn how I can regulate my nervous system. I want to learn how to process these emotions. And I just want to feel like I have tools in the toolbox, so the next time that challenge and strife comes up, that I'll have something that will allow me to process these things. Because we're never taught that. Like, we're taught our ABCs, this color's green, this color's blue. How do we process grief? How do I process sadness? How do I process these different emotions? And it's something that we're never ever taught. And he's like, great, I want to introduce you to the human potential movement. And I was like, amazing, what is that? That's a really fancy word. And he's like, essentially what this is the human being and the soul inside the meat suit has no limits to it except the ones that we create. And when we fight for our limitations, we get to keep them. Right now, you're fighting for your limitations inside of this victimhood mentality. You have dug a hole, and now it's time to build the ladder. And the way you build that ladder is with knowledge and with education, but not the education that you're going to get from this doctorate program. And I was like, okay, so like, what do I do? And he said, start reading books. And I said, great. I had never been a reader my entire existence. So I started off, I could read a book about per month. And this went on for about 2 months. And after that period of time, I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, I need more abilities and I need a higher capacity to download information into my nervous system. And the books that I had read had been really good, right? Like, literally one of them is up there, and like the other one is like right there, which is Beyond Body, Beyond Mind. And that was from my mentor, Sugi Muger. And it was really showing me how your brain creates a reality. And I was like, okay, that's a new concept, but like, how can I start to transform this? So I went down the rabbit hole of like Okie dokie. How can I get more information into my nervous system? Podcast, audiobooks, and because I was so broke at the time, the books that I was going to get were now going to come from the Goodwill. So on Wednesdays at the Goodwill at Marietta is quarter book day. So I, for the entire week after school, would go stack up personal development books, hide them in the kids department, and then on Wednesdays I would go with about $5 and pick up about 20 books. And I would just hand the lady a $5 bill and she would go, "You're good." And I would walk out without tax. Shout out to that woman. She's an amazing woman. So what I was able to do is do that weekly and download about 4 or 5 books a day. And you guys are probably wondering, how the heck did you do that? I learned a reading process called photo reading, which essentially uses your subconscious brain and the 10 billion bits of information it can process per second to scan books. So you prime your system with questions and then you put that into your nervous system. So if you have a book and you want to open it up, you typically get 1 or 2 messages out of a book. That's the average, right? If I tell you what did you get out of The Alchemist, you can typically pull 2 or 3 lessons out of that book, right? This system does that per chapter and you do that 3 or 4. So instead of taking a handful of lessons, you ask, what do I need from this book? And then you can ask the author through this scanning process, all of these different things. So your retention rate goes from about 7% to like 88, which is insane. Takes a while to learn this process. I will not deny it. And it's not an easy process to learn, but it is an invaluable skill to have. So in the process of about 3 months, I was able to download and read about 270 books. And most of y'all are like, "Oh my gosh, was your life completely transformed?" And I was like, absolutely not. I was in the exact same space with the same mentality. Life is happening to me and I could not understand it. And that was when my mentor gave me part 2 of this lesson. Knowledge is power, but it's potential power. You need to take action on that power to actually make it worth your while. And he goes, "What have you done with all this information? Because you're an encyclopedia of knowledge right now and you can recall all this information, but what have you done with it except impress a few people at school?" I'm like, "Oh crap, you're right." And that was when I started to implement this skill. And that was when I started to really understand I need to take this information and apply it into my life and start to ask better questions and set better goals. And that's what really started transforming me. So if you start to fast forward this, in 6 months, I had now transformed my body and my brain to look for the gifts in life, appreciate everything to a degree, and not just the good things, but the bad things as well. And I really started to learn emotional integration and something called emotional intelligence, which is your ability to sustain an internal environment despite what's going on externally. And that was an invaluable skill. Fast forward another 3 months beyond that, I was speaking to the board of a Fortune 500 in Atlanta that I had met at 2 a.m. at a Waffle House. Fast forward beyond that, one of them became one of my clients. And then fast forward 3 years to where I am now, I've spoken to all of those different places, served over 1,500 individuals. So the pivoting moment in all of that was mindset is one of the most invaluable skills that we can have. It is absolutely crucial, fundamental to transforming your life and uncovering your potential. But mindset is the seed of potential. Where we plant that seed is our neurological state of being. And that is the soil. And most of us has extremely depleted soil. We never take care of it. We never really nurture it. We never go and appreciate the nervous system and facilitate the change inside of it from this fear and scarcity into this state of abundance, because that's the switch of a brainwave. So if you can learn to shift your brain state and really measure that empirically, because I'm a tire kicker, guys, through and through. I'm a scientist. I want to know, yes, the why is really important, and that's what personal development tells us. But what personal development doesn't tell us is that if your nervous system doesn't believe in what you are doing, it will never grasp onto it, and that soil will remain depleted. So I went into the neuroscience of this because it built believability for me. Knowing the how allowed me to live through my why. And then that's what's kind of built my life up here today, where I have an amazing home on a waterfront property. I live in South Carolina. I can go to the beach and I paddleboard most days, and I can work less than 20 hours a week. And I put quote in quotation marks because I love what I do so much, but this was never my plan. But when you really live in your purpose, the world will bloom for you. Opportunities will arise, and you will be absolutely astonished at who you are ready to become when you open yourself up to the possibility of change.
Thank you so much for this, Chris. There's so much I want to dive into with your story. And I think starting off with, like, from that place of the victim mentality and in fear. And I think a lot of people are experiencing this right now with everything going on with COVID. How do we get out of that? Like, what are the first initial steps to get out of that?
Such a good question. We have a caveman brain that is launching rockets in outer space, right? But we still have a caveman brain. What our nervous system is really good at doing, that it's better than any other brain on the face of this planet, is gaining information. It's learning. So we, over millions of years of evolution, have learned to be afraid of everything. That's the default system, because I have a belief that the nervous system is attuned to fear, not so that it can survive, but so that we can enrich our lives and live in our potential and really share our gifts with the world. I don't think it's a period at the end of that sentence. Your nervous system is attuned to fear. I think there's more. I think that's a comma, so that we can do more with our lives. So I think phase one of this is really understanding that fear is a learned behavior. And anything that is learned can absolutely be unlearned, right? And we can reprocess and get new information into our system. So I want everybody out there to know that no matter where you are in life, if you're 80 years old or you're 16 or you're 15, you have the capacity to change. And neuroplasticity absolutely proves that. Neuroplasticity is a really fancy word that essentially tells us that our brain has the capability of changing itself. And a study had just come out of California that talked about a really simple practice that I know you and I both do on a daily basis: gratitude. If you write down and do a gratitude practice for 21 days, it actually physically rewires your nervous system, and it turns on specific parts of the brain that have to do with appreciation. It downregulates the fear response in the amygdala, and it downregulates that combination of insula with fear and the amygdala. So essentially what it's doing is attuning you to appreciate little things that typically we would not recognize in our daily life. Like right now, you don't see your nose, right? Until we bring awareness to it. So in that process, the more that we can shift our awareness to things that we actually want versus the default setting in our system, which is look for the things that are going to kill us, the scarcity, the anxiety, the depression, things that are going to keep us confined and labeled, but actually look beyond that and say, well, what do I want from life? Because most of us just go, this is what I don't want from life. And then we never give ourselves direction. We never set proper goals. So when you can start to align yourself to the possibility of change and open yourself up to some of the practices that I'm sure you and I are going to jam on, that is how you get your nervous system attuned. So there's 3 things that I do on a daily basis that are non-negotiables: meditation, journaling, and outside walks in nature. Those 3 things are an absolute must. And that meditation does include some kind of visualization process, which we can totally jam on why that's so important, I think. But those 3 things I know are what I call like BS immunity, because my nervous system's still searching for old versions of Chris and how they can find that, because that's a comfortable thing to have in the world, right? So looking at, oh, Chris, like that's a hard event that really came up on you there, bud. Like, wouldn't it be easier just to be the victim? Wouldn't it just be easier to just like, oh, life is awful and it's happening to me instead of for me? Like, that's the easier path to do, instead of putting energy and intention into going, okay, even though this is just not a fun process and this is grody and it's just like icky, I'm going to allow those feelings into my system, and I'm going to welcome them with awareness and consciousness, because I am not my thoughts. And here's a really great exercise if anybody wants to go super far and deep. If you close your eyes right now and say hello, something says hi back. You are not your thoughts. You are something beyond it. You are the observer of that. And that's what meditation teaches us, is that all of these thoughts that are coming through, we have 70,000 thoughts a day, and about 80% of them are negative based on the research that we see. So it is your choice whether you want to shift that paradigm so that your nervous system focuses on the good, or if you want to stick in the default system of the things that are bad. So when you begin to shift your focus and shift your awareness, your brain will actually perceive a new reality. Same circumstances, same environment, but your perception of it will absolutely be transformed. And again, it's the shift of a brainwave. So when you can learn this nervous system regulation with meditation, visualization, and journaling, and just be aware of your thoughts and not suppress them down, you will suddenly gain way more personal power of your life. You'll gain more awareness and more control over how you want to navigate your future. And it starts with healing the past.
Beautiful. Yes. And so for somebody so new on this journey that's never meditated, that it doesn't have a journaling practice, how can they get started and actually follow through with those kind of practices?
So you can either get to the lowest point of your life, which is what it took for me, where there's no other direction but up, or you can find the reasons right now to make a change in your life. But that's the thing. You need to find the reason, and there needs to be two of them, right? Like this is a really great exercise. Most of us find the reason, if we don't change, then I'll be this for forever, right? Have a negative influence on your life. If I don't change, if I continue to eat cookies at midnight, if I continue to not meditate, if I continue to do this, broadcast your life 1,000x in 10 years, who are you going to be? Are you going to be fit, healthy, happy, wealthy? Or are you going to actually become the person that you want to be? And that's phase 2. So the first one is a negative outcome. If I don't change, then this. The next one is where you get to have fun. If I do change, if I can find the reasons, and I do actually want to feel better, look better, have better relationships, then what does my next year look like? Not even 10 years. What does next year look like? Because some of these things are the breadcrumbs of success, right? So if I do journal every day, if I do meditate every day, if I do start to process these emotions, if I start to work out 10 minutes a day, who are you going to be in a year? And most of us never give ourselves the capacity to dream about ourselves. Our nervous system wants to future cast negative circumstances, but when you go and future cast, man, if I do work out 10 minutes a day, I mean, that's 70 minutes a week. I'll probably have a better body. And you know what? I bet my heart rate will probably drop. I bet I'll feel better. I bet I'll sleep better. Man, if I sleep better, I bet I'll actually think better. If I think better, I'm not going to get so frustrated at my partner. Like, let yourself spiral out of control in positivity. But it takes some energy to do that, because your nervous system will immediately go, wait a second. No. We're negative. We're depressed. We have anxiety. No, this is not us, because you're putting yourself in stretch. You're putting yourself in that state of unknown. And outside of that state of the unknown, the nervous system in that uncertainty goes, wait a second, I can't predict a future from this. But that's the best time where your nervous system's in this state of neuroplasticity. You can create and change and maneuver yourself and pivot to any life that you want at any shape or any point in time. Like even right now, if I want to start like encompassing and putting into my body like depression and anxiety and all these different things, like I can change my body posture to do that. Or I can reverse engineer and say, what do successful people do? How do I want to feel? What would I look like, my best version of myself today? And it's shoulders back, proud, having a conversation with my funky haircut and my weird t-shirts and my lion in the background, like things that make me smile, and then live through that space as if it's already occurring. So I think that would be phase 1, is to get started. And that in and of itself is a meditation. Right? That's the mind in motion. That's you creating instead of just going by the default system. And again, those two things, find a reason to change. If you don't change, what does the next 10 years of your life look like? Stagnation, same day over and over again, sickness, pathology, all of these things. Or if I do change, what kind of things will open up for me, right? Like give yourself the capacity to dream again.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm taking notes. This is great.
Blow it up.
And I guess for then people, so visualizing, what is your process of visualization look like daily?
Yeah, so let's go into this super fun process. Let's talk about the subconscious mind for a second, because this is kind of how I got into neuroscience and all of these different things. Somebody's told me, you know, your subconscious mind is running all of these different things, and it's really creating this lens that your reality is being projected into, and you're living through these like limiting beliefs. And I was like, okay, that's extremely etheric and scientific. Tire kicker in me goes, there's gotta be some science to this, right? If like Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, DeMartini, all of these guys like talk about the subconscious, there's gotta be something back there. So start digging into the neuroscience of it. And what the subconscious really is your mammalian brain. It's your limbic system. It is your relationships. And that conversation that happens in that limbic system is about your connection and relationship to everything else in your life. That's the genuine subconscious. And it's really easy to change the relationships with your friends, with your family, right? And I say easy because the hardest relationship that you have to change is what you think about yourself. And that is the dirty, gross, nasty of the personal development world. And this is what I call the distracted healer syndrome. Most of us want to go serve and help other people, but we do that because it's an easier distraction than working on ourselves and actually going through and doing the dirty work and looking at, oh my gosh, like how am I doing this to myself? And then like the silence starts to come up and peep through. So when it comes to actually making these changes in your life, I developed a strategy for it because that's just the way my nervous system works. So if you want to start to excavate and clear out and heal these old limiting beliefs, which have come about typically from the age of 3 until we're about 14, that's when our limbic system is really in overdrive, that mammalian brain, and it's building relationships and connections and maps of meaning is what we call it in the neuroscience world to everything. So I say that this pen holds significant meaning. It's pink and I give it meaning, and that color pink is associated with happiness. And we do silly things like that subconsciously and we put them into our nervous system. The really good example is like clowns. I know as an adult that there's a man inside of that clown costume that's just living his best life and he thinks that he's doing the things that are good for him. Inner Chris, young child Chris that built a belief about clowns, thinks that that guy is trying to kill me, and I'm still living that belief system. And this is a really great limiting factor. Like, who of us has ever been told by our parents, like, close the door, we're not trying to heat the world, right? Like things like that, which builds in those programs. You're like, I can't afford it, or we can't have this and we can't have that. All of those limiting beliefs really start to stack up in our nervous system. So when it comes through to start changing those and really getting into the subconscious and excavating those, it comes down to 4 different phases. 1 is getting clarity. Most of this, and this is a favorite psychologist of mine, can't heal the unconscious until it becomes conscious. And I murdered that quote. It's from Carl Jung, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but essentially, like, you can't heal something that you don't have awareness to, right? So phase 1 of this is actually looking at, all right, where am I right now? Taking inventory and saying, I don't want to be here, but where do I want to go? Right? But thoughts are not the language of your subconscious, it's emotion. So how can I continue to evoke and bring up that old emotion of scarcity, of lack, of I'm not good enough, of all these things? Because that's a version of you, that's a mask that you've created in your psyche that still needs to be validated. It's still a part that we need to heal up. So phase 1 is getting clarity of I don't want this anymore and allowing it through your system. Let it go, process it through. Right? And then the second one is, okay, what do I want to update that with? If I have this scarcity mentality that I'm not good enough, or I'm running this subconscious paradigm and limiting belief that I can't afford this and I can't afford that, phase 1 is, okay, I have this limiting belief and I have it there, and now here it is, ta-da. Now, what do I want to upgrade that to? And most of us want to go from scarcity to abundance. Amazing. Now, why do you want that abundance? Right? What does that abundance feel like in your body? And that's what we're trying to get to in this little system. Is how clear can you get on your why? How further down that like rabbit hole can you go? I want abundance so that I can blank, right? And for me, I want abundance so that I can have conversations like this. So my little girls at school right now, I can have extraordinary conversations with amazing humans like yourself, and we can jam on conversations like this that I know are going to make an impact on humanity. And as you continue to ask yourself, well, Chris, why do I want to have these conversations? You ask this reciprocating question. I want this so that blank. I want that so that blank. And I want that so that blank. And you go down that rabbit hole about 7 times. And as you continue to go further and further and further, you will start to bring up these emotions. I want to have that so I can create a life of abundance for not only myself, but I can prove to my daughter that you are the conscious creator of your reality. Well, Chris, why do you want that? Well, I want that because the victim mentality that I had adopted and that so many of us adopt from our parents is something that I think the next generation of children don't want to have to pick up. Like, I will do the healing so the next generation can live their true authentic lives faster and go further and not only begin to heal the past, but create a different future. Well, Chris, why do you want that? Well, the future is ours to create. And I think that our humanity has such a different state of abundance now than we had in the past. So I think it would be amazing if these tiny geniuses we call children right now begin to build a better future based on what they think is suitable for themselves. Well, Chris, and you continue to ask those questions, and you could start, I'm getting choked up over here just getting after it, but that's the secret sauce. You ask yourself thought questions until you reach an emotion. Once you reach that emotion, you're now in the limbic system, you're now in the mammalian system. And now you have not only cleared an external limiting belief, but you've actually begun to update and reinstall new ones. So phase 1 is clarity. Phase 2 is affirmations. And affirmations are not I am statements. They are I am fill in with emotion. So you take the emotion that you created inside of clarity, and then you bring it over into affirmations, where you are affirming to your nervous system and your brain with a visualization process. What does it feel like to create this state of abundance? What does it actually feel like? Like, what would it be like to wake up every single day on purpose and go and serve my clients and begin to live through those experiences? And as you begin to visualize this, there's a ton of research that's coming out right now that your brain cannot understand or comprehend the difference between a visualization practice and waking reality, right? That's why dreams are so real sometimes. That's why we wake out of bed and we're like, what the heck just happened? It's the same thing that happens in these visualization practices. So if you can relive or create these experiences and affirm the emotion that you created inside of that clarity practice, you are now downloading and neural patterning different scenarios and different realities into your nervous system as if they're happening right now. So what is it like to drive that car? And I'm not saying like focus on the material, but you want to evoke the emotion. The more that you're able to live in that emotion and produce that chemistry, the different that subconscious will be wired inside. So phase 2 of that is affirmations. 5-minute visualization practice. How good can this get? What does it feel like in my body to live in that future state of understanding abundance versus scarcity, right? And having that awareness. Number 3 is meditation. Your chemicals that you produce, that neural peptide, has a half-life. Like most chemicals have a half-life, they exist in your body for a certain period of time. So we've created these emotions, and now we've rung the bell, and meditation allows the bell to resonate inside your body. Let the neurochemistry do what it's going to do in your body. You've given it direction, you've given it intention. Now meditate and let it do its work. Because most of us go in our visualization and then we go, okay, go, 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 go. And the chemistry gets wasted up and it gets not used. So take that 5-minute visualization practice and the affirmation, right? And that affirmation, again, is you affirming inside of a visualization practice what that emotion is that you created, right? And in that meditation, you just sit there, you breathe in, you breathe out 5 minutes, and let that neurochemistry change your brain, change your body, change your reality. And then the last thing that you need to do that seals all of this together is think up one thing that you can do today that will prove to your system that you are this new person, right? So in all of that, this entire practice spells out CAMP: clarity, affirmations, meditation, and practice. And that last practice, that seals the deal. So in that, if we're having a scarcity challenge, right? If we're trying to excavate a limiting belief around scarcity, the best way that you can do that is asking yourself, okay, in this state of abundance that I'm feeling right now, what is one small thing that I can do today that's going to trigger up this emotion again and allow me to feel that emotion as if it's happening in the future? And what you're doing is proving to your physical existence right now that you've actually made a sustainable change. And your brain goes, huh, I guess this is real. And it will flood you again with all of this sensory information, all of this neural peptide, all of it. And it's going to flood your system. And then you've created triggers in your reality to live that existence over and over and over and over again. So one of the things that I did when I was healing up this abundance issue that I had is every time I would go out to eat, I would never order appetizers because it's just one extra thing and I can't afford it. Every time I go out to eat now, I order appetizers. It's an extra $5, but I'm proving to my system that I can afford it. And by doing that, you will call in all these different circumstances and events into your life that will replenish that $5 that you've lost for fried pickles or whatever avocado toast that you get. And it's small shifts like that that will change your nervous system's attunement and focus to be in that different state of reality that you create. So clarity, affirmations, meditation, practice. Doing that is exactly how you rewire your subconscious brain.
Yes. Okay. Can we run through this practice briefly with the mindset of somebody that, like, a lot of people on this podcast are wanting to break through sugar addiction or break through binge eating or want to lose weight. And so there's so much wrapped up in the mind of like limiting that they're never going to lose weight. They've done it a million times in the past. They've gained it back. Like, so can we run through CAMP, like what a process of that would look like with somebody who is trying to lose weight?
I would love that. So phase 1 of this, right, is clarity. I want to lose weight. Amazing. Why do you want to lose weight, Chris? Well, I want to lose weight because I just don't feel good right now and I want to feel better. Cool. That's an amazing answer. Why do you want to feel better? Well, I want to feel better so that I I could do the things I love for a longer period of time. I love being able to go for walks. And right now, I feel like I can't go on these walks right now, or I get fatigued really, really quickly. Amazing. That's great. So you want to do more activities that are going to enrich your life and fulfill you with more potential to use this meat suit that we call the body to do what's fun and exciting for you. Absolutely. Well, why do you want to do that? Well, there's so many lessons that I can learn out in nature, and I want to be able to take my daughter on walks until she's 70. Heck, I want to take my great grandchildren on walks when they're super old. And I know that if I don't break this sugar addiction, or I don't lose this weight, or if I don't make these transformations in my body, that most likely I'll be doomed to follow the pathway that most Americans are following right now, unfortunately, which is they're going to be on 2 or 3 prescription medications by the time they're 45, and that by the time they're 60, they're going to start to have signs of Alzheimer's and dementia. And heck, I really like my brain. I like living in this reality and not living in this fuzziness. So awesome. Chris, those are really great answers. Well, why do you want to continue to live that expression? I want to live that because heck, I feel like I have so much more to give, and I feel like I haven't even got this process started yet. And if I don't change my body and I start to go down that pathway, well, that's exactly how my kids are going to see me. That's exactly how my community is going to see me. And I think there's a really wise person that said we need to be the change that we wish to see. So I want to take responsibility and actually make these changes in my life. And I'm going to do it. Right? Why do you want to be the change? Why do you want to make this impact on your community, Chris? Well, I want to make this impact on my community because I see what's happening in the United States right now. I see that there's so much misinformation out there. And I want to educate people, but I don't want to only educate them because I know information only goes skin deep. People don't believe what you say, they believe what you do. So I want to be a shining example of how I can be this inner potential that I feel at night when I'm laying in bed, that I didn't do everything that I could today. I want to live in that emotion. I want to feel extraordinary so that I can live in my emotion and that I can express this, and that I'm not only going to say what I do, but I'm going to do what I say. And now I'm starting to feel that in my belly jellies right now, like, cool, like, yeah, yes, I'm going to go eat that liver. I'm going to go eat that. I'm going to go work out and do things like that. And you begin to produce that emotion, and you ask yourself deeper and deeper questions. And you are the limiting factor inside of clarity. How truthful are you willing to get with yourself? Like, genuinely, how truthful are you willing to get with yourself? Because the truth with me, I never trusted myself. I had a really hard time trusting myself. And I think that's something that a lot of us have a hard time doing, is I just don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to make these changes. And most likely that's because we have this negative feedback loop telling us that we can't, we're not good enough, you never make this change before, but we've never updated and installed a new practice. So amazing. I want to live my potential. I want to live. I want to feel great. I want to have amazing relationships. I want to prove that I can make this change. And now we take that emotion, that excitement, that energy, that joy, those dopamine hits that we're going to produce, and we're going to solidify it in a meditation visualization practice. So now we go to the affirmations, right? And we put this into a practice. So I feel energetic. I feel excited. I feel abundance. I feel healthy. I feel this vibration inside of my body that's making all of my cells tingle. And we know that the emotion, those chemicals that you're producing that are getting you excited, will quite literally change the genetic expression. You'll downregulate things that are going to upregulate things like leptin and insulin resistance. You'll start to rewire the pathways that your cells think they need. And you're creating internal accountability for how you know you can be versus how you are right now. And by doing that, you're putting these blocks and stops in our subconscious patterns. So great. Now let's go into this visualization practice. Let's affirm this to our system. You are happy, healthy, wealthy. You've changed your body. You feel amazing. You have all of this energy. Now close your eyes. And what does that feel like to go on that walk with your kid? What does it feel like to not only go on that walk, what does it feel like to have your child chase you and them not be able to catch you? What does it feel like to be that adult that's able to do all these things? That crazy guy at the beach that's running with his kids. What does it feel like? Like, what does that make me feel like? And then you start to put in different emotions. You see yourself differently. That's phase one. How can I see myself differently? Amazing. Now, what does it feel like? Like, quite literally, like, can you feel yourself? Can you feel your hands? Can you feel your body? What does it smell like? What do you start to what awareness can you build around these practices? What does the food that you're eating actually taste like? And how does it make you feel? And as you build a deeper neural practice and you incorporate different sensations, different colors, different smells, different tastes into these practices, you're firing off different parts of the brain, and it's making a more complex neural network so that you have anti-triggers to eating these foods. right? So when you go outside and you smell the green grass, you think to yourself, oh my gosh, that's so good. And those types of triggers will actually block off the old stress signals that are keeping you stagnant, because it takes a lot of energy to be in stress versus being happy and abundant. It doesn't take a lot of energy. That's our default state when we can clear out fear. We want to be happy. The nervous system wants to be genuine and authentic and all the other words, and the chemistry that we produce in this affirmation practice will allow you to do that. So how dense, how complex, how much fun can you have in that visualization process, and put a smile on your face when you're doing it. There's a research study that came out that was talking about your body posture will actually change hormones in your body. It's called the Wonder Woman study, I think, where if you stand in front of the mirror for 5 minutes with a huge smile on your face, shoulders rolled back, hands on your hips, doing this crazy posture like Wonder Woman just came out, that will actually, in men, boost testosterone. In women, it'll boost estrogen. All of those different things. You're changing your neurochemistry by changing the way your body is. So when you go into this affirmation practice, create the body language of the person that you're trying to create. Are they shoulders rolled in? Are they slumped down? Are you like low energy? Or for a 5-minute period of time, put those shoulders back, get your hands in your lap, put a big ass smile on your face, and live in this state of abundance that you've just created. Once you produce all that neurochemistry, set a 5-minute timer, and you breathe in and you breathe out, and you breathe in and you breathe out. And if you can't follow the breathe in, breathe out, because while that type of Vipassana breathing is, I would say, more advanced, you do something called square breathing. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, set the 5-minute timer. After that 5-minute timer is done, you bust out your journal or a sticky note and you write down a single task that you are going to do today that is going to prove to your system that you are this new person. So if you're trying to break that sugar addiction, amazing. I'm going to go take this box of cookies and I'm going to throw it in the trash. I do not need those cookies. My future reality does not eat cookies, right? And I'm going to be that person today. So bye-bye cookies. And your system goes, oh, dang, she's serious. We should actually, okay, I'm on board with this now. So now you're creating coherence between what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing. And if you can do that on a daily basis, you are unstoppable.
That's so good. Thank you for running through that. I think it's so good to have that practical application people identify with and actually do this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And what would you say, so for somebody that's like, I don't know if I'm gonna like stick to this practice, this camp practice, is there anything that you can offer to help kind of make it a daily habit?
Get yourself a coach. Plain and simple, get yourself a coach. This was the number one thing that helped me transform my life, is getting somebody that's gonna like hold me accountable and not to like negatively reinforce, because the negative reinforcements don't last a long period of time. And there's a ton of research behind this, that positive reinforcement actually makes way more change at a neurological level than negative reinforcement, because negative reinforcement is shaming and blaming you back to an old state of being, versus positive reinforcement, like, hey, Chris, like, did you do your meditation practice today? And be like, oh, I didn't do it today. And it's like, oh, no worries. Like, how are you going to recoup then? Like, we got to talk about this, right? So it's like, it's not a bad thing. Like, life happens, but like having a coach that can sustain an optimistic mindset and not blame or shame, but just say life happens, let's get back on board, is crucial. So having somebody that can hold you accountable and see you as your best self on the days that you can't see yourself that way and point out the blind spots is so fundamental. And it doesn't have to be a professional coach, guys. Have your mom, your dad, your best friend, like have accountability partners that you hold each other accountable. My favorite method for this that I typically do in my courses is we have accountability chains and we do ice baths. I know ice baths are really, really good for your nervous system in a bunch of different ways. Strengthens up the blood-brain barrier, takes all the negative ions, and it really closes up the mitochondrial gap so your cells are more efficient. I know it's really, really good. But we have a group of like 6. So Timmy's in charge of Tommy, Tommy's in charge of Jill, Jill's in like, and you keep doing that. So if one person doesn't do it, it's not their fault. The person that didn't do it down the chain is the person that gets the ice bath. So if Tommy doesn't do it, Jill's actually the one that has to take the ice bath. So you're not only doing it for yourself, because if you don't do it, so what? But, oh, I don't want Jill to not want to have to take this ice bath. So having accountability chains, I think, are so much fun. And having a group of friends that's like, okay, Billy, did you do your thing? And this, we started doing this back in doctorate school, and I've taken 2 ice baths thanks to some friends not doing their meditation practices. And we just laugh about it, right? And it's a good time, but they never don't do that again. Like I still think to that day, that person watched me go in the ice bath and stare at them because I am not a fan of the cold. I was just staring at him as I'm like lowering myself into there, just not breaking eye contact. And he's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm never going to do this again. And I don't think he's ever like missed a day of meditation before. So having accountability makes a huge, huge difference. Like the lone wolf mentality that I know I have a lot of the time does not fulfill your own potential because you're only hard on yourself, right? You never like looked at like, oh, today was just a hard day and I just needed to crush that pizza because I needed to crush that pizza. You always go, wow, you're a failure. You're not good enough because those old patterns are waiting for you back in the confines of your mind. So awesome. You snap back to that. But if you have somebody there that's just like, hey, it's okay. Like things happen, life happens. Like, how are we going to recoup now? How can we get back on top of this? Now things start to get fun. Now you can go forward and you don't shame or blame. You claim and say, this is me. I had an off day. That's okay. How am I going to go forward? And you're constantly being drawn towards a pull of the future instead of a push of the past.
Yes. Yes. And so throughout our day, if we are finding ourselves falling back into that past, or like we talked a little bit, I think a while back about impulse control and just like being sucked into those old pattern,
Yeah.
what can we do?
Number one hack is willpower. Number one, plain and simple, because when we're making these patterns, we are putting in new information. We have to make decisions to do the hard thing when the easy thing's available. And there's a study out of Jerusalem that was talking about how we have a limited amount of decisions. We have a limited amount of willpower every single day. So what they did is they looked at court judges and their ability to make choices, or I think what they were doing is looking at parole. And at the start of the day, they were optimistic, they were positive, and they said, you know what, we're going to give this person a second chance. And as the day went by, all the way up until lunch, their ability to make decisions and give parole went down and down and down and down and down until it was almost at 0. Lunch came back and up, and it didn't go to 100, but it went back down really, really low. So what that study really proves is we only have a certain amount of like decisions that we can make per day. So what are you going to use those decisions on? And the number one thing that happens with a lot of people is that we get willpower fatigue, we get decision fatigue. And it's because we're making all of these decisions throughout the day. So how do we fix this? Plan out your day. What are you going to wear? Every single day, I know exactly what I'm going to wear. I'm going to wear a pair of shorts. I have graphic tees that are all from the same company. Really love this company. And that's what I wear. Basically, unless I'm like working or consulting, sometimes I throw on a pair of pants if I'm feeling really fancy. But every single day, I know what I'm wearing. Every single morning, I know that I'm going to have my coffee. I'm going to intermittent fast all the way until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Great. Now I don't have to worry about food. Now, what am I going to do with my activities? Well, I know today I have this podcast, so I don't have to worry about doing that. I'm just going to be present with that podcast. I send an email out at 11 o'clock every single day. I'm going to put social media at this time. Like, plan out and execute your day so you don't have to worry about it. And it's going to take a little excess energy at the start of this. So when you do it in the morning when your willpower is the highest. Schedule out your day for the next 2 days. And then the night before the day tomorrow, plan out the day in advance. So today is Thursday, plan ahead until Saturday. And then tomorrow night, plan ahead Sunday, Monday. So you're never having to play catch up. You're always playing create.
Yes. I love this so much. And I think it's such good awareness to have. And like, if you notice that your willpower for a certain day is super low, like you didn't get a good night's sleep, you ate like crap the night before, and you just wake up and you're like, oh, my bucket or whatever is already so low. Is there anything you suggest like in the afternoon that you can replenish that willpower?
For sure. And I know this option is not available to all of us. So I am the parent of this extraordinary human being. And she's almost 2 and change. And my ability to have willpower goes by quickly because I'm making decisions of all these different things around parenting. So if you're a parent, I get it. Yep, gonna happen. You need to have some point in your day that you can either take a 10-minute meditation break or like a 20-minute nap. That will replenish the neural peptides in your brain. Don't do it with TV. You can do it with a book, doesn't work as well, but I would recommend a like 20-minute meditation that's going to revitalize those neural peptides in your mind and give you more decision-making power. So Phoenix takes a nap at about 12:30 every single day. After that, I do an Instagram live called Nap Time Talks. And then after that, 20-minute meditation, and I sunbathe outside and I ground. After that, I come in and I start to meal prep. Like every single day, like clockwork, there's meditation, decision-making, fill up built into my day because I know this, right? So knowing and not doing is just as bad as not knowing. So if you know and don't do, then what's the point of even having all that information? Knowledge is not power, it's potential power. Do something with the information.
Yes. And y'all, this works. I know I've seen so many people, especially if you're dealing with night eating or binging at night, like so much of it is because you just have like nothing left. And so adding that afternoon meditation is just game changing. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Especially with the nighttime purging. Like I'm a victim, right? I say victim. I have dark chocolate, 99% dark chocolate up in the cabinet waiting for me. And I know if I don't have a cheat day built into my week, that my week falls apart. Like perfection creates this really unflexible nervous system where we shame and we blame and all these different things. So I recommend a cheat day. I don't know if I'm just totally breaking all the protocols that you're having right now, but my cheat day is not around like, I'm going to go house donuts or I'm going to have like an entire pizza or things like that. It's like, okay, I love pizza and I know now how to make cauliflower pizza and I can put it on the grill and it's absolutely delicious and I put liver and stuff on it. But that's my cheat day, right? Like that's something that's a higher carb day for me that I typically wouldn't have. But I have that built in, and then we make like egg yolk ice cream, which is like so good. And that's another like cheat thing for us. But like Phoenix doesn't know that she's like getting like really high choline boost or that she's like eating all these different things. She's just like, oh, it's Saturday. We're gonna have ice cream. Or we're gonna have like, we have pancake Saturdays and stuff like that that help us like kind of alleviate that. And it's built into the schedule, right? So I'm not like, oh, when's the next time I'm ever gonna be? Because your nervous system, if you're like just getting into this, it's gonna be like, what do you mean we're going to go cold turkey, not eating donuts every day at 10 o'clock? Like we've been doing this for 6 years. And you just go, no worries. We're only going to do it once a week. Just know when Saturday comes, nervous system, brain, survival, that think we're going to die if I don't eat this donut, it's coming on Saturday. And then you do it every 2 weeks after a month. And then you do it once a month. And then you do it every 3 months. And then you do it once a year, right? And like you just slowly start to wean it out. But I think one of the biggest things that people tend to do is they stretch too far, too hard, and their system snaps back to where they think they should be. Because if you take a habit and you try to break it instantly, to go cold turkey one day is the worst way to quit smoking, right? Because your system goes, wait a second, I've been doing this for 40 years and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to die. If you do not give me that cigarette, we will die. And this is the thing that's going on in your brain. And now you're negotiating with a terrorist, and we don't negotiate with terrorists, right? You just go, hey, no worries. I'm going to have that cigarette tomorrow afternoon. You can make it. You'll be fine until then, right? So if you can put these roadblocks in and plan in the future for what you know is going to be inevitable, especially with like changing food patterns and diet, just know, all right, I get these food cravings at 9 p.m. every night. Okay, cool. What is something that I can do at 9 p.m. that's going to help alleviate that food craving? Well, I heard that if I sprinkle good salt underneath my tongue, it'll break that food craving. Cool. 8:50, I'm going to sprinkle some salt underneath my tongue and it's going to break that food craving. Give it a try, right? All you can do is try.
Yes. Oh, Chris, this is so good. And I just did a podcast episode on cheat days about reframing it into like a mindful indulgence of like planning it out, not having to go into a horrible binge of like processed food that's gonna make you feel horrible, but like having like you said, like the egg ice cream or just like those indulgences that make you feel like you're getting that pleasure without going, completely bonk, like out of control.
Exactly. Yeah. Because once you start to spiral back and like, if you get snapped back into an old paradigm and an old personality and things just become easy, that's where we start to spiral back. And we don't just lose like a small portion of us, but like if we don't have protocol set up, that's like, all right, old version, like here's a little bit of like substance to like keep you going, we'll snap all the way back to that old version of ourselves. So having those cheat days, I don't even think they're like necessary. They're vital to like creating a new self, because like we're in a way starving out that old version of ourselves, but it's going to be a monkey in a cage going crazy. So feed it a banana once in a while and just change your relationship with it. So if you're trying to like change a diet, I say, hey, instead of changing your diet, change your lifestyle, right? Like what can you do to break those triggers? And then how can you implement some mindfulness techniques that are going to allow you to thrive in different circumstances?
Yes. Oh, this is gold. I could talk to you forever. I know that you have to pick up Phoenix soon, right?
Yeah, in a little bit of time. Yeah, I got another couple minutes. You guys want to keep chatting if there's any other questions that are coming up?
Yeah, I just would love to, if you've got anything that you could share with somebody new on their health journey, like your biggest piece of advice, where to start.
Biggest piece of advice on where to start. I really think that taking a weekend away from everything, and I know this is not super doable for a lot of parents out there, but if you can find the time to like talk with your spouse and just say, hey, I need this for me, and go do an inventory. Really go check in with yourself. Get dirty, raw, and nasty out in a $6 like cabin out in the woods somewhere, or like a 30, like spend some like money on yourself and go get a cabin out in the woods. Take a journal, take some books, and just do an inventory. Where am I right now? And is this where I want to be? And if those answers are no, and you want to change your life, amazing. Give yourself the space to implement some of the strategies we talked today, or get on the phone with the coach that can say, okay, how can we start to put in new strategies to start to transform ourselves from the inside out? The inventory check, I think, is absolutely crucial. And then making sure that you're not like, okay, I want to lose like 100 pounds this year, or I want to break my sugar addiction. Don't try to do it this week, right? Put a 6-month goal out and say, in 6 months, I want to break this sugar addiction. And then you'll do it in 3 months. I would almost guarantee it, because once you start to grab traction and you feel better and you look better and you're thinking clearer, now we're starting to get there. But do the baby steps. It's like the marathon running example. Day 1, put the shoes by the door. Day 2, put the shoes on and go for a walk. Day 3, go for a 10-meter run, right? Like things like that. Build up your resistance to your old self so that the new self can come in.
Thank you. And Chris, where can people find you and connect with you if they want to learn more?
Absolutely. So I am blowing it up on Instagram recently. My handle is Dr. Chris Lee. Doctor is Dr. Chris, CHRISLEE. If you guys want more information about what the heck it is that I do, there's a link tree in my bio that'll give you a bunch of information, or you can head over to my website, which is Dr. Chris Lee, but doctor is fully spelled out thanks to some quite amazing human being whose name is not even Chris in Sweden that has that handle. So it's Dr. DOCTOR ChrisLee.com.
Awesome. And for anyone that is interested in working with you, like what is your ideal client? Like who do you help?
I love helping the burnt out entrepreneurs. I love type A personalities that are just ready to get after it, and they're wondering why they're getting these burnouts, or they've been in the personal development, or they've tried the meditation, they've tried all these practices. So what this really looks like is like, you have more to give inside of you, and you just don't know how to quite get that out, right? It's like white ceiling syndrome is what I call it. You're laying in bed at night and you said, oh, today was a good day. And then the voices start to creep in. Was it really a good day? Like, did you really do everything that you could have? And I think that that's our higher self, our inner potential knocking at the door saying we have more to give, and we'll always have more to give. But I want to go to bed rested knowing that I can give more tomorrow because I gave a lot today, and I can continue to grow and continue to thrive in that mentality. And I love working with people like that too. So my coaching is biometric based. We look at results. So all of these strategies are really nifty and neat, but I work with a lot of tire kickers that are like, I've tried meditation, Chris. I want to make sure this works. So I send them out a device and we measure your nervous system. And if your nervous system doesn't change, amazing. It's not that I was wrong or that you were wrong. We just didn't have alignment in the way that we were practicing this. So if you don't get biometric changes and you don't feel or behave or change or feel or different relationships in any regard of the metrics that we measure, cool. No harm, no foul. Guaranteed get your money back.
Awesome. Need to talk to you after this podcast. This has been so great. I appreciate you so much for coming on. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and ask you questions. So I definitely want to have you back if you're open.
Always. Yes. We always have such good conversations, and there's so much more that we can dive into with all of this.
Yes. Well, thank you, Chris. And until next time, everybody, love yourself. You are worth it.